Yeah. Hey, look at that. Both cameras working. Looks like audio's working. Is your audio working? Say something, will you?
Something.
Oh, yeah, there you go, man. You're on. Well, hey, welcome to the weekly live stream of Atlas Precision Consulting. I'm Andy. Matt's on the right side of your screen. And we are here today to talk about Profit 21. And we encourage you guys to ask questions or, tell us what your pain points are or things that you're trying to figure out or whatever it might be in Profit 21. That's what the live stream's all about. But today's main topic is we're going to talk about Report Studio, which I'm really excited about because that's basically a day off for me. All I have to do is sit here and do the production side of this and just make sure everything works. I'm not going to have to run the screen share or anything crazy like that. That is all on Matt today. So Matt, kick us off. Tell us all about Report Studio.
Report Studio was, when was it? Was it introduced in?
It's
21.1 or 20. It was in.
Yeah, it's been there a couple, 3 years maybe.
Yeah, and in a nutshell, it's a web query, or not? It's a SQL query with a user interface on it. I mean that's the best way I could describe it, and it is something I think they are obviously actively improving on, because when it first launched, and we'll talk about data sources here in a minute, there was like 90 something, and now I think they're up to 140, I think. And data sources are just, they're not always 100% one-to-one to tables or views that are in there. Sometimes they're cross-pollinated. The only downside I would say is, at least as of right now, and of my recollection, I don't know about in the latest version, there's still no way to add your own custom tables or view of data, where other third-party platforms like WebQuery, you can attach your own custom data to it and build your own reports and whatnot off of it. I will never claim to be an expert on this. I am somebody that found it very interesting and just dove into it. I'll give a shout out to the Worldwide User Group. There was, I can't remember the woman's name, but she put out a really helpful starting guide when this thing first went out. This was 3 or 4 years ago. I don't have a copy of that anymore. If I did, that would be really nice. But anyways,
we are members. We could probably score that for you.
Probably could. Got to get something for that sponsorship from last year, right? So let's see. Where do we want to start? I'm gonna pull up. We are sharing my screen, right?
We are sharing your screen.
Because I don't want to get yelled at if we're not.
No, you are good to go, man.
All right, so we're going to start in user maintenance. And reason being is there's 2 settings. One I'm very clear on. One is like stereo instructions. It just doesn't make any, doesn't make any sense to me. The first one I want to call out, there is actually a report creation in Report Studio. This allows you to, and you can't see the settings, but there's all, none, role, and user. Essentially what that is, it allows you to, if it's set to user only, I can only create, whoever that user is can only create reports for themselves. Role, they can share those reports with like roles. Like if I'm in the admin role or the all role in our system, I can share those with other like roles. All I can share with anybody within the P21, and none is I can't share my reports with anybody at all.
Your drop down might actually work. Go ahead and click it right quick.
I did, and it didn't. It's not showing it. I'm looking at.
You're right. Okay, good. It's not just me then. I thought it was a Mac thing.
No, it's a window share thing, because I have that same problem in Teams. If you share just the window, it considers that a different window. Any drop down, it's even though it's coming from the window I'm sharing. Whatever. We can't blame that one on P21.
No, but I do want just like one quick sidebar, because that is our thing here. The stereo instructions reference. It amazes me how Beetlejuice as a movie has had an enduring impact on our lexicon in this country. And I think it's wonderful personally, but that's just me.
The other one is under application security. This one I found confusing and not being able to really make it do what it says it should do. It's allow access to Field Chooser and Report Studio. According to the help file, there's something else that can override that, but it doesn't really explain, shockingly, what that is.
It's probably, if I had to guess, if you'll go back to the user tab, the designer rights or extensibility rights.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking it's that, because that would be the only other setting I can think of that actually has the impact on whether you can create columns in the Field Chooser.
And if I remember correctly, there was a time period, and this has been a while ago, before this report creation setting was in here. It was actually tied to either designer rights, like it wasn't clear of what it allowed you to do.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have their own little setting. So luckily in later versions, they do.
Yeah, I bet you it's tied to extensibility rights.
So I already had those set, so I'm just going to save that. Now, the meat and potatoes, if you will, of Report Studio is the data source maintenance, and that's what I was talking about. It's 145, which again, when it started off, it was like 90. Essentially, what all of these are different data sets that I can assign to particular users, all users, or particular roles, and then also see within those, and we'll get into that. One nice feature that I believe is relatively new, because I found it in my refreshing of memory, there's just copy current permissions. So you have 145 tables, or even if you have, however many of these these AR and AP ones, you don't have to go through each one and go, okay, well, this user or this role can use those. You can set one. So like we can come in here for the AP one and say, okay, admin can use this one, or, maybe be better for us, we'll say just this role can use it. Because keep in mind, if you enable for all users, there's going to be data in there you don't want, your inside sales guy to see, right? You don't want to open up your AP and AR to everybody.
Right. And that's, I think the general ledger is in there. All your core financials, everything is there. So it's absolutely worth, I think, the trouble and time.
Right.
To just set this up on the front end and keep an eye on it.
Well, plus it'll make it easier for the people that are creating their own reports, where if I enabled all of these for all users, just 145 data sets they're going to be digging through trying to figure out what they want to build a report off. Where if I'm an inside sales guy, I probably only need a couple ones set to be available to my role.
Right.
But the nice thing is, and again, this wasn't in the original feature, is you can highlight, like I'm on this one here, and I can now do copy current permissions, and it'll bring all the other data sets up, and I can come in here and select, okay, I want all these AR and AP ones to have the same permissions. And now if I click on, any of those, you can see that the all role is now
pretty slick. Yeah.
So, which is weird that it's there instead of a right click.
Yeah.
Because there is a select all, right click with that. You would obviously have to save that. Now, which I don't want to do AR, because let's do.
Yeah, we need to do like something inventory or sales or purchasing related, probably.
There is just a straight up. There's inventory adjustment, inventory return, inventory value, item. What's your fancy? Item stock status.
Items are probably going to be something that's fairly universal for folks. So yep. I could dig on items.
So if you double click on it or highlight it and click on the data source, it'll take. Oh, it doesn't do it anymore. Oh man, it used to. If you checked enable all, it would take you straight to it. But anyways, if you highlight it and go to the data source content, these are all the fields that are going to be available to create a report off if you select item. Now you'll see there are some that are displayed by default that you can't remove, and you'll see what that is when we go and create a report off of this. Now you can remove them from the report as you start to create it, but by default you're saying every time I start a report, these are the fields that are going to be displayed. Now you can come in there and add extra ones if you want to. You have a question?
Well, but you can't add something that's not on the list, right? There's no mechanism to do that.
Not from here. In the actual report studio, you can dyna change other fields and using existing tables and doing just like you would a dyna change on another screen.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were just doing a project where we had to update like a ton of short codes, and we had to use keyword data to figure out what that was. So our first instinct was go to Report Studio, create a report that we can dump, but keywords wasn't in here.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I'm thinking it's because of the data type of the field. I think it's, but
you might have been able to do it with the dyna change.
Yeah, see, I didn't even think to do that. We just, I'm trying to remember what we ended up doing.
Man, if you only knew somebody.
I was under pressure, I had to make a decision. But yeah, no, I think it is just worth mentioning though. I mean, the table is there, but it may be that not every single field is there, especially if it's one with kind of a weird data type.
Right. And there's some, and this is what I'm saying, where they're not necessarily all from the same table. They're not all INV mass. There's some other stuff in here. That like purchase group description is pulling from.
Right. It's linked in from the discount group table.
So even if you're, you are a SQL person, you're like, well, I know INV Mast has this in it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be here, but with a dyna change, you may be able to put on the report. But there are some shortcomings to that I'll go over. This column is interesting because I don't remember this one, and I don't remember it actually.
I could see that one lighting up if we're talking about something to do with a value that's like you're dealing with multiple currency. Usually when I see home value, that is home currency is what that kind of leads me to believe. But I don't know that in this data set you've got any. Maybe go to the price fields. Yeah, check one of the price fields and see if it lights it up. It may be that we have to have multiple currencies to find. I don't know.
Yeah. So something else here I was going to do with here. So column aliases. So if I don't do anything with this, when I run my report, this is going to be the column headers. But if I didn't want item class 1 ID, I could just change this to class 1 and class 5 or class 2 or, so on and so on. And when I run my report, it's going to show this alias as the column. So if you do have a certain way, or maybe you want item description completely spelled out, you can add that in there. Or if there's just a really long header but you want to make it something short that you guys use, that's something else you can do. And again, display by default doesn't mean it has to be on the report. It just means it's going to be there when you start, because anytime you start a report, it doesn't give you just a straight up blanket.
So do you think it's like, what's the best practice there, Matt? Should we err on the side of displaying a lot of columns, or err on the side of just pick the stuff you need when you need it, so that you're not unselecting a bunch of stuff or dragging it off in the studio?
Unless it's mandated, company specific, always every report needs to include X, Y, or Z, don't do any more than you need to.
Okay. Because
you're just going to add extra work to. And if you do, there's nothing to stop them if they have those whatever those rights were, to just remove it as soon as they start the report anyways. So yeah, I'm always the fan of less is more.
Okay.
Any other question? I mean, again, data source really isn't. It's a lot of stuff. but it's not complicated. Like they all kind of work the same way. And they just have, some of them are very small. Some of them are very small sets of data. I think I saw one, I don't remember which one it was. There was like 7 fields. Like it was just something really small. Within this one, I find it funny that cash collections has 104 items, but item only has 84.
Well, see, I mean, I'm looking at this and seeing they're actually linking the invoices in. Now, like from a data perspective, a cash collection call, there is a master-child relationship there. You have the call, and then you have the invoice detail from the call. So it looks like it's pulling all the invoice detail in by default. And there's a lot of invoice data there.
And you do have, obviously an address is broken up into 1,400 different lines.
Yeah.
Now notice some of these are
at home value. So
that's
yeah,
weird.
I am. Okay, so there's some amount and percent. I don't know. We should just try it and see if we can tell what the difference is.
All right. Well, it's ship to ID in which one did we do? Cash collection.
Yeah.
Actually, let's do something.
Yeah,
more.
let's do something a little easier to deal with.
Let's do.
Is there anything in bin?
Let's do.
Because bin's pretty straightforward.
Bin doesn't have anything. What about just invoices in general?
Yeah, that would probably work.
Let's see.
Yeah, there we go.
So let's do amount remaining.
Okay.
And we'll see what that does. For the sake of... All right, so we did...
Oh, I have an idea what it might be, but I don't want to be wrong, so I'm not going to say anything.
All right, so I'm going to enable invoice. Now, you notice there's invoice and then there's invoice line. So they actually have that split into... which is interesting to me. Well, they have some choices in here that seem like.
See, a lot of those relate back to tables in P21. Like I'm looking at those going, yeah, invoice header sales rep, that's a table in P21.
So let's do. What do we want to do? Let's do. We did invoice inventory adjustment. I was playing with in another system.
Well, no, never mind. Sorry. Go ahead.
Whatever you want.
Can't. It's there'd be PII in it, and I don't want to put that on the internet.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll do item. And again, I'm overriding on it just because it's easier that way. Item bin. I'm interested in that one. Does that actually show?
Yeah, that's probably going to be your INV bin table, which is basically saying how much of an item is in a particular bin at a given moment.
This stuff is all over the place.
Yeah, there's a lot of join-ins on that. I can kind of tell by looking at it.
All right, so we got inventory adjustment, invoice, item. What was the other one we did? Ooh, opportunity.
Oh, yeah, you're familiar with that, vaguely.
PO receipt line. I'm gonna grab PO. I'm just trying to grab a couple that sales order is always a good one. Sales order line, that's a good one. Sales pricing.
So while you're picking stuff out, I mean, my perception of this feature is I think this is the eventual replacement for InfoMaker. So for those of you new to P21 or whatever, you may not know what I mean. InfoMaker is some like really old software, but it's used to create custom portals. It goes back to the Power Builder days, which I think it was 2015 or version 12.15 when Epicor started making the transition away from Power Builder and over to .NET, and it happened over the course of 3 versions. So 12.14 was the last pure Power Builder version of P21, if I'm saying this right. And then 12.17 would have been the first full .NET version. And then from there, it flips to 2017.1.2, and then it's each year. There's 2 releases. So Power Builder is what you would use to essentially populate any type of data like this or a Crystal external report. So my perception is over time that the idea is that this becomes the eventual replacement for Power Builder, where you can do pretty much as many things as possible. Power Builder, for as antiquated as it is, you could do a lot with it, especially if you practiced with it. But as that software gets older, harder to run, all this kind of thing, I think this is how they plan to phase it out over time.
I've selected these 2 here because we had a potential project that a customer had asked about bin tracking. As far as I transferred these, like obviously you can see bin movements, but sometimes P21 doesn't always record, at least in the traditional places, where it came from, right? There's 100 in A1, but you know that if it came from B2,
right?
So I've never played with these wireless transaction ones. I think these were added later, so I'm interested to see if there's actually some, because this is a system we did some wireless warehouse stuff in, right?
Yeah, I think sure. I don't know. We're gonna find out real quick.
So once you set all of those permissions, it's just make sure you hit save. That's really it. That's really all. A data source. The biggest thing is permissions. That's the biggest thing for the screen. Don't come in here and just turn everything on. Make sure you're assigning the correct stuff to the correct people. Now I will say some companies are 10 users and everybody does everything.
Yeah, maybe that's not such a big deal. Yeah.
But I would still say even in that case, there's probably things like if you're maybe not using wireless, don't turn the wireless ones. Don't just turn everything on. And I do recommend going by role, other than user should be an exception.
Yeah. I agree.
In everything.
And one of these days, we probably just need to do a live stream to talk about roles and managing Dyna changes and just kind of
sounds like a good topic for next week.
It does. Just administrating the system in general, because we see a lot of folks step on landmines right out of the gate and not really realize what they're letting themselves in for.
Yep.
And then before you know it, their screen changes are unmanageable.
Well, and you think you fix something in somebody's role, and then they don't see the change. Well, it's because in that mix of 500 Dyna changes you have on that screen, Timmy has his own individual one that's overriding his role.
Right, and he's taken a field off screen that actually a business rule needs to be able to run, and
that's never happened.
And then Timmy falls into the well and can't use the business rule. So,
man. A Lassie reference.
Man, I'm just trying to keep up with you, bro.
All right. Any other thoughts on? And I will say this: this other column here, in use does not mean if it's enabled. In use just means there's a report that's created out there using this data. So obviously, you wouldn't want to just turn something off if you do see reports are out there created. Maybe you need to inquire who's creating the report.
Yeah, that was going to be my thing. It's like, hey, wait a minute, who's doing all the GL ones or whatever,
And if you're set to all, you'll be able to see everybody's reports. And we'll get into some of that, how you share reports and things like that, because it can get kind of reports in Report Studio are not like a canned report. Like it's a little different. Again, it's more of a query system with a user interface. All right. So we're going to we'll come back to my reports, but we'll go to Report Studio. All right. So this is the data source, and it looked just like us, where they like to put, we like to put instructions on our screens for our things. They actually did that here as well. To select a data source, you just click. Oh, can you actually see the drop down on that one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
hey,
that's a different drop down.
We're moving up in the world.
And you can obviously search it. So if we wanted to let's do item. Just like everywhere else in P21, or almost everywhere, it has the inline search to make it nice and fancy. So when we select this,
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm glad this came up because I was trying to figure out.
That's weird because the preview should be on.
Right, but I was trying to think about like how to work in the concept of
Here we go.
not blowing up your database performance.
Well, and that's what I'm getting. So it did give me that warning.
Yeah.
But what basically that warning is telling you, don't turn this preview off. Because what this preview does, it's just like in SQL, give me a top 50. It's only giving me 50 results. So if you're building a report and you don't see the results you think you should see, it's because you have preview turned on most likely. And the query you're doing has more records than 50.
Mm-hmm.
But if I turn this off in the middle of the day and I just ran, what would it say, 38,000 records?
Yeah, and 38,000 is not bad. We've had customers build out portals with the idea that, we're going to build this portal or this report studio thing, and its sole purpose in life is going to be to provide this data so we can dump it to Excel, and it returns hundreds of thousands of rows, and there's 5 or 6 people during the day trying to run it, and it's like, hey, our system performance is degrading. No kidding.
Yeah.
And
So,
you find out that's what it is.
All right. So these are the defaults. This is what came in. Now, for some reason, if I don't want one, oops. Here's a weird part. You can't right-click on the header and remove the field. You have to right-click in the actual field to remove the field.
Okay. Why not?
So I don't want that. Now, every time you do that, it's going to basically re-query.
Yeah, so another good reason to keep that preview turned on.
Always. When you're building reports, always keep that preview on. Now, you can also search for default and find it in here, and you can uncheck it here. But it's going to do, once I hit apply, it's going to do the same thing. So obviously, if you're trying to remove something, I would just remove it from here. It's quicker than trying to find them. So what you this is kind of similar to, it's not exactly, but kind of like mass update when you're building the data that you're trying to pull out.
Yeah.
It's all broken down into, well, at least in mass update, it's broken down by tab. This isn't. This has got some weird, like class 1 is set to its own thing. And I believe if you put the description on, I believe it also puts the ID on, or does it only do the description? No, it's only doing the description, which tells me that class. Okay, this is where it gets funky. So class 1 description is under class ID 1, but class 1 ID is under INV mass. So they're in different groupings. So if you go to a folder and you are a little drop down and you don't find what you're expecting to see, just search for it. It's probably easier just to search for it anyways. I'm gonna remove those two. What fields do you want to add on here? What do you? We're building a. Now this is not a stock report.
No, this is an item list, right? How about date created? Can we get date created? That seems like one, like if you were trying to build something for new items.
Date created.
Yep. And then what else do we want to put on there?
All right, so we got we don't need units. So, well, I don't.
Now, do we have access to like the location type data where like default or the product group or anything like that? No, product type. I mean that might that's interesting-ish.
Well, but isn't that
that's like whether it's a temp item or a regular item or whatever. So that to me that would make sense. You got the default UOM. Hey, what happened to date created? You killed it.
I did. There you go. I added it on there. Don't worry, I got you. Well, let's do this. While we're talking about, so again, these are all the fields out of the box that you can add in, and some of them, it's mostly header information in an item, right? Like it's mostly the top stuff, but there's not even stuff like vendor. I don't believe. Where is there?
I don't see. So
yeah,
like,
there's not even vendor. So I don't even know what this one would
well,
be
okay,
useful
roll that
for.
up. So like when I'm looking at this from a database perspective, right? Like I could relate, except for computed field, I could relate every other one of those drop downs or those accordions to a table in P21. So like item UOM, that's a table.
Right.
Class 1 through 5, well, class is a table, and you would have to link back into it 5 times to get the class description for each class. Currency header, that's same thing. IMV mass lot, same thing. Those are tables. What's under computed field? That's interesting. Not really. Okay. That just means we don't have a table for this. It's embedded in the application, so we'll just throw it in here.
Now, while we're doing this, there is a field chooser. And this is like where I was saying it's like a dyna change, where we can add, a computed field, we can add a related table.
Add an existing database column.
Right. And this is very similar to, now it's not always what you want.
Well, let's take IMV mass. And keywords. Huh. All right, note to self. Call Matt next time we decide to try to use Report Studio to bulk get data out of somebody's system.
Was shortcode in here? Yeah. Yeah, so that would have...
Well, that one was fine, yeah.
That would have been nice to have both of those.
Yeah, no, we did it a much easier way. We wrote a mini app to yank it out of the data services API.
So now, most likely, could you use a SQL join statement to add INV loc information? Probably. Again, I'm not a big fan of showing that stuff on these streams because...
Well, I guess my question would be, like, okay, I can understand...
Or is there a better table we should be looking at?
See, that was kind of where I was going to go. I could understand that the item one not showing item location data, but I'd be more interested in seeing if we started the data source as item location, would it give us all of the item level data since it's up a step in the hierarchy?
Let's see. We only have item inventory. So let's go back here.
Yeah, oh, there's some good ones down there. Item location, not one of them, though. Or item supplier location, well, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. Hold the phone. Go back to that list. Like, I don't understand how item supplier is there. Item supplier location is there. But item location is nowhere to be found.
Maybe it's under...
That's kind of weird to me.
And again, that's where and maybe there's a table. Let's try just inventory. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's inventory something.
It's an inventory. I mean, none of this stuff is going to have... Oh, there's location ID.
Okay, so that would kind of get you there, I think.
But this is looking more at quantity, costs.
Well, for the INV loc table is all right. Scroll down and see if primary supplier ID is there.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, INV loc. A lot of the stuff that you would want from the item location table would be here. This is just kind of weird to me. What happens if we try to join it in? On the other side, I mean, we might as well just walk through it.
On the item one?
Yeah, the one that we were working on.
I didn't save the report because I was clicking too fast.
It's funny how easy that is to do.
It really is.
When you're under the gun, maybe you will develop an appreciation for what I have to go
I
through.
feel like I am like if I didn't have my mouse and keyboard, my hands would be up here because
Right.
I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
So you're saying that it's just like you just have these reflex actions to click something and you can't really help yourself.
Yeah,
That's weird. I've never experienced that before.
At least I don't have somebody yelling at me.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like.
All right, now you're going to have to. It's been a long time since I've done this, and I intentionally stopped doing it because I have broken stuff. That we had to reach out to a very awesome company called Atlas Consulting.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, this is like perfect marketing. Like we're encouraging you to break stuff so that we can get you out of it.
Well, and it's funny because, and I'm serious. You got. I don't know if you remember this. You had to write us a script that would
to unravel it. Yeah.
Yeah, basically go, and if I didn't catch it right away, we had to go dig through and try to find what we were. It was bad. So,
okay, the table name is going to be. I guess we'll just do the tables. It'll be shorter. INV_LOC. And the join syntax is going to be left join, INV LOC, on, INV_mast, dot, INV_mast_UID.
Oops. UID
equals INV loc dot INV mast UID.
Wait, INV loc?
INV_loc, yep. Dot INV mast UID.
You want to kind of explain what we're...
Yeah, I mean, this is... And I want to explain it. And as I'm sitting here thinking through this, I'm trying to think about, like, you've got a camp of P21 deployments that have been on-prem for a really long time, and there's a lot of SQL experience there. And then you've got a camp of customers coming into P21, into the cloud, where they may or may not even have read-only access to their database and may not be using a lot of SQL.
Right.
So, I mean, essentially what we're doing is we're linking in the INV loc table. And as I'm sitting here just rattling it off the top of my head because I've been doing it for so long, I'm sitting here going, how would someone even know to do this, you know, if they didn't know the database? And I think that is where it gets tricky. So, you know, Matt's right. We don't typically show a lot of stuff like this on our videos, but I mean, hey, like I said, we want you to break stuff so that you can call us and we can get you out of it. But
it's just important to know that
it's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah, and
you do it or not.
And if you need help getting there are people, not just us, that can help you. At least I've heard there's other people. I don't know if that's actually true. But you know, it is possible to do a lot of things with these custom joins and table add-ins and stuff.
And if you don't get crazy with them, they're very useful. Like, we've all been in there in P21 where the screen or this report's a bad example. This screen or this, you know, grid of data, like in an inquiry, is perfect, except for
it needs this one field.
Yeah. I need the primary supplier ID in this field, which that gets a little more hankier because we're doing something very simple here where every item has a UID. It's a unique ID. It's not your item ID. It's the behind the scenes ID.
It's just it's a system generated number in the background.
And so we're only having to join off of one thing. But if you were doing a thing where, because you have potential of multiplying your results if you don't do it right.
If you don't do the joins right, essentially your result number of records in your results can become exponentially too many. And what we typically do is we'll craft like a view that gets us all the fields that we want, and then we expose the one field that we need to link to in that view so that when we come here, we're just linking to a custom view and not creating a mess on this screen.
Now, this is the way you could theoretically bring in custom data from your own table, as long as
If
that
you
table
have that
has
option.
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay, if you're hosted, I'm sorry, you don't have that option. Well,
Look, it's in flux.
yeah.
But I'm gonna say for the overwhelming majority, just forget Matt said that.
Yeah. So the nice thing is, OK is grayed out. It does now. It lets you force your way past it, but you at least have to run a test first. And essentially, what it's going to do is it's going to go out and tell us the test failed. What did I type in wrong?
Left join.
Oh, there it is. I got a period instead of an underscore. There we go.
Okay, so here's I want to talk about this just for a second, because I've been doing this for like 10 years, almost 10, and got blown up on this where a test was successful and it really wasn't it was not successful, even though it passed validation. So I got in a situation where we were doing a business rule. The customer was not even live yet. They were on the verge of going live. We did the business rule, and then we had to do essentially what we were trying to do was get the last price paid and the date of their last sale.
I know that customer.
Yeah. We're trying to get that on screen. Okay. Yeah. And so I wrote a view to be able to do that, because this was going to be way simpler than doing a rule, and joined it in, and it tested out fine. I missed something in the join. There was the where clause in the view was missing something. I just missed it. And the problem was there wasn't enough data in the test environment to reveal the problem. So all that's happening here in this window is that it's saying before your join, there were 50 records. And then you test it, and it's going to run it with your join, and it's going to say, oh, there's still 50 records. It must be fine. Again, 99 times out of 100, that may be the case, but it also might not be. So it's just stuff you have to be careful with it. There's a lot of power here. I'm going to avoid the Spider-Man reference, but, You
can also hit the show sequel, which it's just showing you every...
Yeah, the whole thing, and then how your code fits into it.
Okay.
So, like, I think if you scroll down on the right, you would see your join is in there somewhere. Yeah, see it right there above the word where? Yeah. So it's kind of the before and after, which if you're a SQL guru, this can help, because it gives you some insight into how that join works. The other thing it does is gives you insight into the other tables that are available in this query for you to join against, and the fields. So anyway, something to consider.
I forgot to turn my Teams off. I got people asking me questions. Let's see. Now, again, I will say, even if it fails, the OK still lights up, and you can just push it through.
Yeah, if it fails, don't push it through.
Don't, because it'll tell you, are you sure? So anyways, so once we do that, now it doesn't add anything over here. Oh, it did. Oh, that's new. Oh, that's so much better. The first version of this, it didn't do that.
Okay, now here's what's interesting. So can we refresh this preview? Don't add any fields yet. Just refresh the preview. Yeah, okay, now look at the results. They're all doubled up. And the reason that they're doubled up is because now that we're joining in INV loc, there can be more than one location for each item, right? So now you're getting a result per location.
Right, but this allows you to, if you wanted to,
Sure,
to be able to run the report by location.
Yeah, no, absolutely it does. But I just wanted to illustrate the concept that, hey, you got to be careful about how you're joining and understand what you're joining, because if you didn't display any of these location specific fields, you might just think you're getting duplicate data when you're really not. It's your join that's driving the fact that now you're getting items times results.
I find this frustrating to me here.
10.0.0. Yeah, I would think once that goes to portal, can it be dyna changed?
No, when it's a portal, I don't think you can dyna change a report studio portal. We'll test that out, but I don't think you can, or at least you couldn't, because it's pulling from. It's not letting you modify the report.
Yeah,
which is what all the portal pulls
that's
from.
kind of a bummer. I don't like the fact that that's 2 decimal places. No one does that.
No, and I don't know why it's doing that. Now I will. I was the edit field labels.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly like the alias on the source data source, where we come over here and we can give it an alias.
Now this would be like a report by report alias, where the other one is like every report you create is going to have this alias.
But I will say this: try not to do that a lot, in my opinion, because if you have a report that you called default UAM, preferred UOM, and you go to whoever wrote the report and say, hey, I'm getting this weird result for preferred UOM, they're gonna be like, I have no idea what that is.
Right. Yeah.
So, but
no,
you can.
I agree. That's a good call.
All right, so we're still in the. Technically, we're not in the run the report part. We're still in the. So what fields do we want?
I would throw in quantity on hand, quantity back ordered, quantity allocated, and
quantity on hand. Mm-hmm. That's probably enough for.
Get back ordered, quantity back ordered.
Oh, sorry, there it is.
And then primary supplier ID. And primary bin might work too. Yeah, that's a good result.
All right, so now the nice thing is you noticed I was able to search and still just keep checking a bunch and then hit apply.
So this is hysterical. The supplier ID and the location code, which fell off the report, have 2 decimal places, but none of the quantities do. That's deeply funny to me.
Well, and again, I think it goes back to this whole thing is still
work in progress.
Very much so. Very much so. We have quantity on hand. Now, there is no quantity available. Quantity available is a calculated field.
There is one thing I want to test on this one. Once we get this saved and done, I'd like to test something on that.
Okay. Well, you can do a computed field and do the math.
Well, no, what I was going to test was if we change the system setting for the number of decimal places on quantity, would it affect this report?
Oh.
Yeah. See there? I can think of something once in a while.
Well, but quantity over here.
I know things. Well, right, but I believe in this system, the decimal place setting for quantity is 0.
Oh.
I think.
Maybe after we save it and come back in. We'll see what it does when we save it. But yeah, it's treating it as a number instead of an ID, which is kind of frustrating. But again, don't expect this thing to be 100% replacement for a nice custom report. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's very useful for certain pieces of data, and we'll get into that when we're talking about ways to use these. All right. I don't care about unit of measure for this report, because I think everything in this system is each.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just trying to quantity hand, quantity item description. I think that's good.
All right, so
for standard inventory report.
So item ID has the little link thing on it. So does that mean it's automatically picking that up as a linkable field?
Yeah, it means if I click on this, it's taking me to IMI. Which means wherever this report lives, it'll have that drill down. It's taking forever to try to pull it up for some reason. So we'll go back to that. All right. So we're good. So I'm going to save this just so I can get it. Now, this is another one of those really frustrating things. If I just click save, it'll tell me that I haven't named it. Like here, I'll click save. It won't be saved because I have to then go here and, you know, I wish it was on. I wish the layout was a little bit better.
Yeah.
So we're going to call this, we'll just call it inventory report. Now here's our display options, which you probably won't be able to see. Oh, yeah, you can't see that.
Yep.
Report means it's just you're only going to be able to run it as a report either from Report Studio or from My Reports. Portal means it's only going to be used for creating portals and or tabs. I think you have to. I think it has to be set to portal if you're going to create a tab using it.
Yeah,
I believe.
that tracks.
Now, even if you set this to portal or none, you'll still be able to see it in Report Studio. You just won't see it in My Reports.
I got you.
For our case, we're just going to call this all. There is a spot here for you to put a note like what this report's used for. You do have to select a module.
So that's just where it's going to be slotted into the main menu.
Right. So you have a My Reports that will show you reports, but it will also add it to your search
to the
bar.
report tree and whatever module you pick.
Yeah. So you could save it if you want to. So obviously, don't assign it to accounts payable if you don't have access to accounts payable.
It's probably a good idea.
This obviously will enable for all users. If you uncheck this, it's only going to be enabled for whoever created it. Create a summary view. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Create a graph is new for me. It wasn't in the version that I learned Report Studio on. So maybe on a sales report, if we want to create one.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah,
we should do that.
So we're going to save this. Now, when you come into Report Studio and you want to run an existing report, you actually have to select on the Edit button to run it from within here. And we haven't really set this report up yet. We have just set up our layout. Now, obviously, you can click and drag, however you want these to be. Oh, that's not, sorry, I want primary bin at the end. Another cool thing you can do, and we'll do this on the criteria side, you can actually group the report like into sub. So like if you want to say, I want to break it up by location, here's all the items in location 10, here's all the items in location 20. And then you can also go...
And you can do that with multiple fields, right?
Yeah, so then we want to group it by primary supplier. So if we did have multiple suppliers, it would break it up by different suppliers.
That's pretty slick.
And then you can always just remove that if you want. If you want to, go location and then bin, here's everything that's in A1. So I love I probably wouldn't save a lot of reports that way, but I love the flexibility of you could use the same report in different ways depending on what you're trying to do with it.
Yeah, no, that is good. You don't have to really define the data one time, and then you can just kind of flip it around.
The other thing you can do on here, you can click the three dots here, and there's aggregates. You can do a count depending on what it is, which that was not a good idea. So if we get quantity on hand, I can go in here and I can get a max, min, sum, average, count. Count is just going to be how many lines, obviously, right? Like,
yeah, how many?
But if I do
that criteria, yeah.
If I do a sum at the bottom here, it's going to tell me once we do criteria of everything that I ran, this is how many SKUs or quantity on hand I have, and you can use that for summary reports, which is kind of nice. Which we'll get into that once we do some criteria stuff. I'm going to remove that for now. I'm going to attempt to remove that for now.
It's not the one on the street, man.
It does not want to.
Can you just not save it?
Yeah, I'm just gonna clear.
That seems
That
kind of.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like that should be. Oh, wait till you see how you can share reports with people. That's a treat.
If it's still like it used to be with the encrypted PBR
Uh-huh.
file,
Still is. I was hoping when I was doing my refresher that it wasn't. It still is, but it's important, and I'll explain why. All right, so
wrong, dude. It's just so wrong.
Yes. Data source, we went over. This is basically picking our data we want to display. Criteria is our filtering, how we want to run this report. By default, it puts delete fag to no, so it's only showing it. Now, if we wanted to look at deleted items, we could click on this and change it to Y and hit save filter, and it would flip it. It would run it the other way. But it's assuming you don't want to look at deleted ones. Maybe you do, so you end up creating a different report for that. This is where it gets kind of funky. So let's say we want to create a back order report. So if we did quantity back ordered, operator begins with, contains with, anything like that. We're going to do is greater than 0. And we're going to hit save filter. When we hit save filter, it's just going to move it down here. So now you can see, even though I have preview on, I'm only getting 7, so that means it's all my records. So essentially what I have created is a backordered report for everything. Like there's no narrowing it down. There's no nothing. It's just, hey, I always want to look at every item I have on backorder.
Now, okay. So just, if we, getting back to the topic of being able to reuse the same thing over and over again, do we also have the option of just not putting that filter in, but then at runtime, when it's a portal, can we filter the individual columns to say, hey, I just want to, filter this grid of data down to just stuff that's greater than 0?
There are options, and I'm trying to remember, and this is where I wish I had that really helpful document. There's a way that you can set this value to when you run the portal, you have to enter in the data that you want.
Oh, like a parameter.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a guess that it's going to be set up like Power Builder.
Okay.
And if that's the case, you would do a colon and some word like, QTY or something.
The colon sounds familiar. I don't remember if that's...
Survey says?
Yeah, no. Survey says you broke my report. So
it's just testing its durability.
And I haven't found any actual good documentation on those. Maybe there's some available in the new help files. I don't know, but you really did break my report. So somehow, even though you're not clicking,
I'm still messing stuff up.
you're still messing stuff up.
Well, that's good. I like to be consistent.
I do know, let me go to user maintenance. I want to see something.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to see if I can get an answer on that, because doing the parameters and tokens, I think, is important.
All right, so I know there's a way. All right, so see how my default location is 10?
Yeah.
On this user, I know if we go to, all right, let's see if I can do this. Location ID equals.
Yeah, and then it's going to be in carats. It'll be like
it's whatever the
default,
field name is.
Yeah.
Wait, let me just go grab the name. This one I kind of remember. So if I go over here, anybody wants the field name, you right click SQL information, just for your own. So if I come in here now and I put this in carats. Save filter. Now, when I run this report, I'm only going to get location 10 results because we've told the report that, hey, whoever runs this, go look at their default location. That's the only results they're going to get. So if you're trying to silo locations on certain reports, like hey, if you're a location 10 user, you only need to be worried about location 10 stuff.
Yeah, and the same would go for like open order reports where the user is the taker and stuff like that.
Yep. And it's basically, this is kind of like when you're running or creating a portal, and when you open in a customer ID, you want it to go look at that customer ID, and that's the data that gets pulled into said result from a report studio. And there's other things you can do. Default branch ID, I think, is one. So like if it is a accounting report and you only want them to be able to see stuff from their location that has their own branch, you could do the same thing. I'm going to take that out though.
I'm still looking for the parameter thing because I'm just, I think we.
Now advanced filters are interesting.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that would allow you to filter on more than one condition. Okay, do me a favor. Where it's blank there, the third column, right click. Nothing.
No, it gives me.
See, like in back in the day, not in the web client, you could right click in these fields, like when you were setting up alerts, and say insert token, and it would give you a list of tokens that you could use.
No, what you're not seeing is it's just giving me the Chrome.
Oh, okay.
Right mountain.
Is the right click work on the inner value column over there where you originally create the filter?
Let's start. Let's do. What were we doing? What we were trying to do?
Just pick. It doesn't even matter. Just pick any field. Equals, and then right click there. Nothing.
No,
okay.
I don't even get a Chrome pop up.
It was worth a shot.
So we don't have anything now. Here's something nice. You can actually, even though we didn't put date created on our report, we can still use that as a filter.
Right.
So if you are wanting to filter down by something, but you don't want junk data on the screen, you can still filter. Like if you always wanted to show, here's everything that's left in receiving bin, you don't need the bin ID on there. You could set the criteria to bin equals REC and just don't have the bin location on there. Here's something that I found frustrating, and maybe the advanced filter helps with that. The old way of doing like a date range, you would have to do two fields. You would have to say date created is before or greater than, this time, and is less, and then create another filter is less than this time, which is kind of cumbersome. But you can also do, this one's kind of cool. So if I do date created and I do the carets and say 365, it knows that's 365 days. It's going to go back and go, show me everything that was created in the last 365 days.
That's actually pretty cool. I didn't know about that.
Now, unfortunately, I don't believe I have anything in that date time.
No, probably not.
Let's make it, 3,000 days. Or I might have to put days in there. Hold on, it might be days. Oh, I can't remember now. Let's see. Is it 365 days? I know it works. I just can't remember the actual.
I am feverishly trying to get an answer on this stuff, man.
There we go. I had to put days.
Okay.
That's what it was. So it's saying within the last 365, here's the items that were created. Obviously, we haven't created any in this database in that time frame. But if we had, it would show that. And that's useful for, like, if you're looking at open sales orders or, a lot of those reports will default to a date range like that, but you can obviously modify that. So like if you're wanting to do like in the last, 30 days, you could just say the last 30 days and save the filter. All right.
So I'm slowly getting there. Maybe.
All right. So I'm going to change this back to quantity on back order is greater than 0. But then I also want to do quantity allocated. Or wait, quantity. Oh, that's gonna remove all of those. Are you still looking for that?
I am, because I just feel like that's something that that's so useful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to leave that, not covered, I guess.
So this is not extremely spelled out. But if you can right click and create a summarized report, it doesn't actually do anything unless you have something filtered up here in the header. And I believe there's one other thing we have to do. Let me double check. Nope, that's it. You have to have, basically it's whatever headers that you build up here is what is your summary report. So like if we just wanted to look at quantity on back ordered at every location, we don't care what the item is, I can create a summarized report that tells me at location 10. Oh, well, it's summing the different items. Oh, I hate that. Oh, I hate that. The summary is not fun. Let me go back to it. What's a better way we can do this one? All right, let's put quantity, put location ID, and then quantity on back order. So I don't care about what bin, I don't care about primary, well, all that other stuff. It's just a smaller, basically a summarized version of my report. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm looking. I feel like I just haven't found the post where the document is. That's basically where I'm at. Were you asking me something? Because if you were, I wasn't paying attention.
I know. That's why I was trying to explain to you how the summarized report works.
Oh, well, thank you. That was very helpful, and I will take that knowledge and use it wisely.
Wow. I have never done that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
We'll do that with a
interested to see how that works.
Report permissions. I find that odd because I guess, okay, I have it enabled for all users, but if I didn't want it for an all users,
yeah, you could then knock it down. So, I mean, I could see this as a secondary layer, like, yeah, you may have access to a certain set of, data source to create reports from, but you may not have every report that got generated off that data, I guess is a way to say it.
All right. So I'm just creating this. I'm going to let me make sure my results are, let me clear all this up. So this is a very simple report. I just basically created, show me all the back orders. I figure we could turn that into a portal relatively easy.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember.
Well, what if we did a graph showing the sum of back ordered quantity by location? Could we do that?
Let's see. Oh, man.
Understanding Report Studio.
All right, how do you want to do this? You want to do...
Okay, the x-axis, that's going to be along the bottom, so that should be location ID.
Location ID.
And the y-axis would be the sum of quantity back ordered. That should be it. I mean, I think that should work. Yes? No? Maybe?
Do I have to hit retrieve again?
Do you have to save it, maybe?
Maybe I have to have it permission to
create a graph. Yeah, there you go.
Now let's save it. Let's go back into it. I don't know how to... Oh, graph it.
Hey, that's kind of cool. I mean, I think it'd be cool if it sorted it in ascending order, but...
It didn't do it.
But at least it's not got the decimals after it.
There. Now it's doing descending.
Oh, man.
That doesn't make any sense.
Wait, no, that's insane. What?
Let's do a pie chart. Now, I will say, I think this is kind of like, again,
I do too. I'm not, I'm definitely not trying to be a jerk about it.
In our example, it's bad because
we're ill prepared as per usual.
Maybe a better way to do this would have been item ID.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so we can see that's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie.
Now, if you have 100,000 items, it's not that cool.
Yeah, it's not very useful.
Oh, goodness.
But it's cool. It's a cool little feat. Is it useful for every day? Probably not. All right. I assume we have no questions on any of this right now. No, we don't.
No, not yet.
Probably because it's just you and me watching.
It could very well be. As well as we're doing today, that wouldn't surprise me.
I'm going to try not to take that as an insult towards me.
It's not towards you. It is like, I mean, I'm sitting here like on another planet trying to figure out how to create a stinking parameter.
What does that mean? Use a series. Oh, it breaks it up by location.
Yeah, so you get like a bar for each location. Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. Again, the report we created doesn't really lend itself to that type of report, but I still think it's a good one for... let me do something. Let me see if I can remember how to do this. Location ID equals colon.
Okay, so right off the top, in the help file, there is a list of valid tokens. So that's good to know.
I just figured that one out.
Yeah.
Yay. So what I did was I put if you put a colon and a field ID, when you run the report,
it's going to filter on that.
Yeah, it's going to tell you, okay, what location are you trying to run for? I want to run this for location 10. And now I can just look at location 10's results.
Sweet.
Now, the issue with that is if you do that, anytime somebody goes and opens the portal,
they're going to have to put that parameter in.
They're going to have to. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if you can do a... Can you do a range?
I doubt it.
Nope.
Try greater than 11.
Well, I could just do 20, and that would get that.
But I'm just curious to see if you could do.
Well, not greater than 10.
If greater than or well, that's fine too. Yeah.
Null.
Yeah, which there are none. There wouldn't be any null location IDs.
So that's interesting. So that's kind of...
Yeah, and what's interesting is like the help file doesn't even go into the parameters. But
Right.
like I said, the tokens are there. So you've got like user ID, default company ID, default branch ID, default location ID, CRM sales rep ID, OE sales rep ID. There's probably, I'm going to guess 20. Now, you had, you did the 365 days.
Mm-hmm.
You could also do a number of weeks, a number of years, a number of quarters.
Mm-hmm.
You could also do MTD for month to date, YTD for year to date, and today is obviously would set the date to today.
Oh, well, that's very useful.
Yeah.
Now, I believe we can try to test this after we set this up. I believe if we set this item ID equals, I'm trying to remember how, because I created one, this is again 3 years ago, where we wanted to look at every customer's back order.
Mm-hmm.
We just wanted a tab called customer's back order. So in CMI, I created a tab using the report, and magically it knew which customer ID it was.
So I think you do that in the tab creator itself.
In the standard, it's the field chooser, right?
Well,
Not
there's
field chooser.
there's a tab in there where you can set up the filters with tokens, kind of like you're doing it here.
All right, well, let's do this. I'm going to. All right. All right, so I still want to try to create a portal. I want to create a tab. We need to show how to copy and share reports.
Right.
What else do you want to look at? What do you want to do next?
You know what? I actually really like the idea as a little mini project. Let's build out exactly what you did before. Let's build out a report for customer back orders, and then let's create a tab in CMI.
Okay.
Or wherever you want to put it. Actually, could we put it in, where would be a good place to put it? Order entry?
You could see all their. I mean, the problem is, I'm pretty sure, isn't there there's not a tab that shows their back order. We did it in CMI because you had to go down to the sales tab.
Okay, well, we'll just do it in CMI. That's fine. It doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll just do it there. So you're going to be building this one off OE line?
Which we didn't put on here. So let's see. What is that one? It can't be just as simple as order, is it?
I don't know, but I am really enjoying this, you running the screen share thing.
I'm not.
This really works for me.
There we go. Sales order line. That's
like I have time to sit here and stare at your mic level and mine and micro adjust it a little bit.
And you get distracted by looking at stuff.
Hey, I was researching valuable information.
All right, we're going to do sales order line, or OE, for those in the know. Order number. All right, so we're going to do. That's interesting that it's only. All right, so this is where, like, some of these reports come with.
Right, that you may have to knock out of there. Yeah, I would knock the order date off of there. Be gone. Deep six it.
Okay, so there's a lot more there.
Supply chain issues.
Yeah. All right, let's do customer ID. And then quantity. Okay, now this is quantity back ordered is not.
No, it wouldn't be. So really what you would probably want to do a calc field off of this to do like quantity ordered minus invoiced minus canceled. But you could just throw the invoiced, canceled, and allocated in there.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Although, I mean, it would be nice. I mean, if you could do a calculated field in here, we should definitely demonstrate that. This is a good place to do it.
Okay, so what do you want?
All right, keep those three. Pick up quantity ordered. And yeah, quantity on pick tickets is fine. Okay, apply that, and then we should create a calculated field. See, it's so much easier when you have to do all the work.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. Customer ID. Oh, because this is not a linked. We didn't do the join. Okay. That's why. That's where those decimal places were coming on the other ones, because it was data coming from that join that we did.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So I wonder if there was a way that you could. All right. I don't want this. I'm gonna get rid of item description just because I have so much stuff on here.
What I like about this, though, and this does work similarly to InfoMaker, where there's certain fields that are always going to link out. So you've got customer ID links out, item ID links out, order number links out. That's nice. Now, does it take you to the order drill down? Probably.
I'm sure.
But I would think you could affect that with a navigator drill.
I don't know. Because
we'll try it and see.
Because I know there are issues with trying to dyna change tabs and portals created from Report Studio, but maybe that's changed.
Okay, well, we can try it and see.
Add computed field.
Okay, so this is going to be. Does it give us a list of columns? Yes, it does. So we want.
What do we want to call this?
Quantity open. All right, so it would be quantity ordered.
Actually, quantity ordered
minus quantity canceled minus quantity invoiced.
What about pick tickets? Oh, they're still technically
right. They're still open, it's just not shipped.
That it?
You just have to verify it. Yep, that's it.
Oh.
Did you try to put a space in there?
I did.
For shame.
Expression okay.
I knew somebody once that did that with a user-defined field, and it blew up their system.
And there are a lot of different functions that you can put in here, but obviously this is a very simple one.
Now can you edit the computed field?
Oh, there we go.
You could probably do a round function on that. Or actually the way to get around it would be to see if int is a function. Yeah, so you just go up to a quantity ordered, and I hope you put that on your clipboard.
No, but I'll just close it without saving. I didn't think it was going to completely
blow it up. Yeah, just go right to the beginning and do int open parenthesis.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
My bad.
No, you're good. It's a lot of pressure, I know. Wow, that didn't fix anything. All right, I'll reserve the right when we deploy this to see if we can dyna change that, because that would make me.
I'm sure there's some way. We ran into this issue. I don't remember what we did to fix it, but I'm not worried about it for this purpose. Though I'm going to do something here because this is driving me crazy. Well, that's interesting.
Your computed field's not even there.
Nope. Maybe because I haven't saved it. Maybe we have to save it.
Maybe.
Let's save it.
Try
Let's
that.
save it.
Although you didn't save the other fields. You didn't save it when you added the other fields and they were there. I'm just saying.
Maybe computed field. All right. Open item. We're going to do this as order processing. All right. we'll do graph too, just in case we want to make a graph.
I get the feeling you like that.
It's oh, you have to go. Oh no, okay, we're not going to do the graph then. You have to go set the graph up before you can come back and check to save. Whatever. All right, go back into our report. See, I just hate the way I name that.
Well, why don't you just edit the computed field and change it there?
Because I can't get rid of the underscore either.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Because it's using the whatever. Doesn't matter for this purpose.
But it's going to be there every time you look at it.
I know. So in theory, I'm trying to remember if we have to put a...
Well, we definitely need a filter on this for...
quantity open greater than 0. That might be a problem. Yep.
Okay. So well, what you would do is just do completed, just see if you can filter for completed. Yeah, there you go. Complete. That's right. On OE line, it's complete equals n.
Okay, good. So that gets us better.
Yeah. All right. Everything's had an open quantity. That makes more sense.
Yeah, but that's another note. Any edited column, you cannot make it a filter.
For a computed column. I mean, that makes sense to me.
It's almost like it's just an on-screen calculation.
It is. It's not. And that's the way Dynachange works. So, that tracks.
All right. Do you want to just save this then?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's try to create the backorder report as a portal. And then let's create the open item as a tab.
Okay.
Portal maintenance?
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while.
Same.
Item BO. Just layout 1, right? Because
it's just that element.
And then we're gonna go find
inventory report backward.
Yep.
Cool.
Save. And then should we do by role or
yeah, I mean I managing stuff at the user level. I mean, it's doable, but it is brutal.
All right, portal view. We're gonna add. What did I call it? Item BO. Huh. Item on B. So we created something that was already there, but that's by taker. All right. That's an interesting choice in this version of P21 where there is no. This isn't a hybrid. That's interesting. If we leave refresh timer blank, it doesn't refresh unless you refresh.
Yeah.
Which should be your default option.
Yeah, look. It's as great as it sounds to have a refresh timer and everything. That means you're sitting there popping the database, over and over and over again. And if you get enough people doing that at the same time with a big enough query, it's not great.
Times 100 people.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to save that. I'm assuming I'm going to have to log out and log back in. Right.
You might be able to get away with just closing your, I don't know, just log out, log back in. It'll probably be easier.
I see what you're saying. Close that home portal.
Yeah, but sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't.
No, let's log out. I remember the portals were easier to create than I struggled a little bit more with it because, you know, I did all this just playing. Like I just poke, poke, poke. I forgot we saved it as a graph.
It's very in your face. I have some
All right.
ideas for RP21 all of a sudden.
Let's let's go back to Report Studio and get rid of the graph. Apparently it's only a graph. That's interesting.
I actually kind of like that. I mean, that's.
Could you use those to create a widget?
I would think so, because you can create a widget off a portal, and that is so much better than the way that I have the graph set up on my home portal, because there's just not a lot you can do with it.
I'm gonna have to log out and log back in. That's funny. I was not expecting that. There we go.
I like it.
Now the cool thing is you can still, because it's a Report Studio,
You can still drag stuff up.
Yeah. Now you want to see if we can.
Yeah, let's see if we can clean that location ID up.
That's
no
a negative, sir.
soup for you.
Nope.
All right. Okay, so let's do. Go to. Right click on the primary supplier ID. And do Dynachange Navigator.
You know what's interesting? There's no drill down, but the right click will still take me to vendor supplier manager. That's interesting.
Okay.
So it's already there.
Navigator. Make it a drill source. Okay. And then let's go to supplier maintenance and do the drill target there.
Yeah, it looks like it still lets you.
That's pretty slick. I like that. Is this going to be another log out and log back in type of scenario? There's a lot of that.
Have you tried turning off and turning on
Is
your
it plugged
P21?
in?
Yeah, it's plugged in.
My favorite episode is still where they redid the 911 number. You know, and it was like this long.
So, okay. So drill downs do work.
Okay, cool. But formatting off the table.
Yeah. That seems like a really...
that seems like a missed opportunity. It really does. Because that's not clean. It doesn't look good.
No. Now, I wonder if you can... Well, we'll play with that when we go to My Reports. Actually, you know what? I'm going to jump in there real quick. So My Reports... Is any reports that you can see? Now, the difference is you can only run them. You can't muck with the criteria. So this is useful if you don't want people in there having to create the criteria. Like it's almost, but in that case, I would almost just make it a portal than making somebody go into My Reports.
Right.
So that's all this is. Essentially, it's that portal that we were just on. But I was curious. Nope. Dynachange just doesn't even exist in this screen. Interesting. All right, let's close it. All right, let's see if we can do a tab. Customer maintenance. Nope. We want CMI. And if I was smart, I would hit F8 on my keyboard.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right. Dynachange tab creator, create a new tab. Open item, right? That's the one we want. Then we got to go to open lines
Sure.
or whatever.
Yeah, now this is where you're going to put your stuff in.
This is what I was saying. I think there's something else we have to add to the criteria that we can select.
So you the report would have to have a parameter.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to go back and add customer ID as a parameter on a report.
But I'm trying to remember, do we have to have it a specific way? I can't remember.
It shouldn't be. If it's like report or it's like InfoMaker, it'll just pick up anything that's one of those colon parameters. The only thing that's different is you name your parameters whatever you want in InfoMaker, where here you have to name it the field name, which is kind of weird to me, but whatever.
So I need to add customer
ID.
Oh, it is not like inline search. Interesting. Equals
colon customer ID.
Anybody using these colons, it has to be equal.
Yes. Yeah, that is true.
Just null for. That's one for anytime you put it, it always pops up. All right, save the report. Oh, you can't save it in reports. Interesting. So we have to save it as a portal.
Why is that?
I don't know.
What was the error? I couldn't see it because your camera was covering it.
It says the use of retrievable arguments in the criteria panel is only applicable in two portals. Either remove the criteria or set it to option to portal.
Okay. That just means that the report module doesn't support the parameters.
Right.
That seems kind of ridiculous, but okay.
But again, I still think most of the time
but
I still think this data is mostly useful as portals or tabs.
I mean, look, there's a lot of comments that we get, throughout the week on the channel where people are like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? Is there a report for this? Hey, you're probably gonna have to build it out in Report Studio, but that's where I would go because most of the things people are asking for, you can drag it out for the most part in Report Studio.
Yep. All right, now we can go to customer ID. Customer ID.
Yep, and that basically links it. Now it's saying to restrict the lines down to just the customer that's loaded in CMI.
Okay, so basically because that's one of our retrieval arguments. Now, if you had multiple retrieval arguments, would you...
You could set them there. So you could set it like, item and location or customer. Like if you were multi-company, you would need an argument for customer ID and an argument for company ID. Because it's a compound key.
Okay.
And again, like I love all of this. I still keep getting into like, how would someone know that?
Well, I mean, the little bit I know from this is beating my head against the wall. And again, that very lovely lady, which I can't remember her name, created a very useful document in the Worldwide User Group. Now, granted, it's older now, but it's still very relevant, I think.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. I was gonna...
So what's a customer that would have open lines?
Sample. Just try sample customer.
There you go.
Wow.
Can we... Uh-oh. Nope.
What did you try to do?
A screen designer. Dyna change. It didn't tell me no. It just blew
it did. It just did it in a different way.
Nope. All right. But I mean, you could see how it could be. I'm a big fan of Report Studio. I know it's got a lot of kinks in it, but I think it has a lot of potential for certain cases.
Here's, from my perspective, and this might sound counterintuitive because of what we do, but and you've been on this call with me 10 times, right? Where they want to hire us to do reports, which we're happy to do. But reports tend to become one of the most expensive things you can pay someone by the hour to do. Because it's like, hey, I want a report that does this. So we go build it. And then it's like, oh, can you move this here? Can you put this here? Can we add this other thing in? Can we do this other thing? And after you've gone back and forth like 15 times on that, before you know it, you just spent, $2,000 on a report. And whereas with this, at least for a large percentage of stuff, you can self-build it, and save that expense and, pay the hourly rate for more in-depth things that are going to bring a lot more value to you as a company.
Well, and the nice thing is, like now I can, since it's created in here as a tab, I can filter just like I can filter everything else.
Yeah, I like that. I really do.
What else do we want to do in Report Studio?
I think we kind of have run it out, right?
Let's show you how to copy and share a report. So if you just have, like, we have this inventory back order report. If anybody can go in here that has access to it and they start editing it, start making changes, it could break your portal. Or you may have it set up exactly the way you like to use it, and somebody's mucked with it. And unfortunately, the only way to do that is you have to be actually in the report. So you have to click on it, go back to the report list, and then you have to right click on it to create an encrypted file to share. And that's just going to create a encrypted file. It will name it the name of the report with a date tag on the end of it. So you can email that to somebody else in your company. They come into the report list, be selected on a blank report, right click, import said encrypted file, look up said file. Now, the nice thing is it won't, well, that's taking a little longer than it should. It just takes you straight into it. We haven't saved it yet, but the nice thing is if I come back to report list, it's given it a different name. So even though I didn't hit save, it did save it, but it saved it as a different, so it doesn't override the original. So if I hit clear now, you'll see that -5 on there. And I can come in there, and maybe I don't want that enabled for all users. I'm going to make it so it's just enabled for me, so it's my own version of the report.
And you can change this one, and it's not going to affect the original.
Right, doesn't affect the other one. So I would make sure, like, if you're going to have multiple people in here creating reports, use this note to say, do not modify, something like that, so people know, or better yet, don't give them access to it.
That helps too.
So if somebody says, hey, I love this portal, can I have it as a report, but I want to change some things in it, you can copy it, send it to, or not copy it, but create an encrypted file, have them import it, or you import it, set it to their user. Just be careful, because I've had it where we spent all this time, somebody creating a bunch of reports, and then somebody went in and destroyed it.
Yeah.
We did a thing like where our Canvas name had our initials after it, just to make sure everybody knew, because we weren't really managing permissions at the time, because there was only a couple people using Report Studio.
Right.
We went almost 2 hours on Report Studio, which is a little bit longer than I was.
Yeah, no, that was pretty in depth. I am just intellectually curious though. So, if we go to system settings and change those decimal settings, is that going to blow back all the way through these reports?
Let's find out, shall we?
Now I gotta remember where it is.
No, you don't.
Decimal. Yeah, there you go. Nope. Inventory management, general, maybe. No.
Where the heck was that? Was it in system settings?
Yeah, it is. It's in a weird spot. Maybe, all right, it's either order processing or system setup. It'd be under general if it's anywhere. Yep, there it is. So take quantity decimal precision and change it to like 2. And save it.
Trying to see if it changes those 4 decimals to...
Well, I want to see if it changes the 0 decimal quantities, the ones that weren't messed with, that they're just stock. Does it add the 2 decimal places out to that?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's pretty good. I still don't like the location ID thing or the supplier ID thing, but...
Which is weird, because that means it was looking at it as if it was a price.
Yeah.
Hold on, I want to... Now I got to try something.
Because if that works, that's annoying.
Because the quantities were zeros, because were nothing, because we had it set up to nothing. So what I'm going to do is go down to general. I'm going to set my price to 4. Actually, I'm going to do a weird number like 5. Can I get on a soapbox about decimals in P21?
Maybe next week.
This is a farce. It's a farce. Because it's still 9 decimals in the database.
Yeah, it's just how many you're showing. That's true.
It's a farce. As anybody that has ever had to do inventory adjustments on partial quantities? Yep.
Oh, that is brutal. I am not amused.
I am.
Yeah, that seems like a little miss in the code. I will say this.
I don't remember it doing that before, so I don't know if it's a bug in this version.
And the other thing, I guess the last thing I would point out on this is we have seen instances. I mean, what's basically going on here is as you're building out these reports and adding stuff into it or whatever you're doing, P21's building a query off of that, right? In the background, it's building out a query. And we've had instances where like Report Studio was giving incorrect results, and we would do a database trace on it, look at the query that it was performing, and the query was wrong. It was missing part of the key in the join or something like that, and that's why they were getting bad results. So, look, that was a few years ago. A lot of that stuff may be straightened out, but I think it's just worth mentioning, because if you do start to get into these sort of problems like that, don't beat your head against the wall. It may not be you, and you may have to drop back and do it as a portal or something like that. That's all I got, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do this one because I've had customers where I'm like, have you tried Report Studio?
Yeah.
Like you said, like, again, we build reports for people all the time, and we will happily do it, continually doing it. But if you can serve yourself to get the data you want using what's out of the box, spend that money customizing something that you can't do already in the system.
Exactly. No, I agree.
I did want to check on one thing real quick. Since
you gotta go back to your screen share.
Sorry. I wanted to, and again, this is more of we had a customer that had requested bin movements on a report, and I was
the wireless thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I was curious to see what this transaction detail
If that doesn't have it, bin movements are.
But does it have the destination bin and or the source bin? Because there's bin is a data source in here as well. I'm just curious to see what wireless audit trail, but that's yes. I don't think that's going to give me what I want. I think that's just going to tell me where. Does it even have? Item ID is quantity.
Now, you were saying earlier that you can't put your own custom views in as data sources, right?
But you can join to them.
I was about to say, yeah, you could do a join to get that.
You can join to it, but
you just have to have the right base table to start from.
Yeah, like obviously if it's inventory, you're going to want,
in
your custom table, you're going to want the IMV match UID in there. But the problem with that still is you can't query with use criteria with those. Oh, wait, no, you can't. It's just computed. You can't.
Right.
Okay, so if you joined, but also keep in mind, if you have, some of these custom tables that I've seen people make, have 200 fields in them.
Yeah.
It's going to dump all of that as options over here. But yeah, so you can't. They've claimed that custom tables are coming, to me that's the big piece that this is missing, is being able to fine tune the data that I want. So.
Yeah, I think it would be nice if you could build up your own queries from scratch. I can understand in the hosted environment where that would be dangerous, but for this to really get me where I would want to go, I need to be able to write my own query from scratch.
Yeah. All right. Did I not turn bin on as a data source? I did not. That's probably just going to be bin details.
Yeah, that's just the actual bin itself.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to drag it on any longer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, look, we appreciate everybody joining in and watching on this one. Like I said, we thought this one would be a good, nice, easy, kind of lightweight one to go through, and it is a good feature. I am consistently surprised, right along with inline search, at how many folks don't even realize this is available to them. So yeah, use it well, and when you hit the upper limit of it, give us a call, and we can try to help you through it.
Yep.
All right. Well, we appreciate all you guys, and we will see you next week.